Today I want to talk about why World War II Zombies maps seem to die just a week or so after they're being released, and this is something that I've actually been thinking about for a while now, but I never really thought it as a fundamental problem with World War II Zombies up until recently, because if you look back to our first two maps, there was always a different reason for why these maps died so fast. For example, you look at the Final Reich, you could actually just say, well, the Easter egg was solved before the map even came out, which did have its effect and everything, but I don't think it was the main reason. And then you could look to the Darkest Shore, which I would say is not the best map ever, so that was the reason why that map died right away. But then DLC 2 came out, or the Shadowed Throne, and the thing is that this map was well received. There was no Easter egg beaten before it launched. There was really nothing solved before the map even launched. There was just a lot of good going on with this map. A lot of people liked it. There was not that much dislike going around with this map. It was mainly really positive. They liked the Easter egg. They liked just everything that was going on. Even the story was pretty cool and everything. Just really, it looked like a solid map. But nonetheless, this map still also died about a week or so after it launched, and this is when I started thinking, is there actually something fundamentally wrong with World War II Zombies that the maps die so fast after they're being released? And then I spent a good amount of time thinking about this, and I think I came up with two pretty good reasons for why this is the case, and one of them is going to have to do with the story, and the other one is going to have to do with gameplay. And since I do think story is important, but I don't think it's as important as gameplay, we'll first start off with gameplay. And the main problem with gameplay and why the maps die so fast is not that it's not fun, but it more so has to do with it just being not a solo friendly zombies mode. It is just flat out not if you're going for high rounds, if you're going for Easter eggs, just playing the game casually, it's not friendly for solo at all. It's just not. Let's just face it, this game is so not solo friendly, and this may not seem like a problem at first. Well, at least to some people it may not seem like a problem, because I mean, just play with people. But thing is that you're not always going to have people to play with. There's not always somebody going to be online that's willing to do the Easter egg with you or willing to go high rounds with you. You're just not always going to have that other person to play with, and this doesn't only affect the people playing it, but also affects the YouTube content on it, because if you look back to Black Ops 3 and even WW2 Zombies, you see that people were streaming these Easter eggs, doing different challenges, and just doing a whole lot of different things with these Easter eggs. But the thing is that when you're streaming, you want to do it solo for you can more interact with your audience that is in chat, but you can't do that as much if you're playing with other people in your game, because you don't want to ignore the people in your game, but you don't want to ignore the people in your chat. It just becomes very difficult. And actually, if you look back to a stream that happened with, I think it was JC, Mr. Ruffle Waffles, and a couple other people, but they got really upset with, I think, JC that was kind of talking to the chat, and they just got really annoyed with it, and that's a really big problem that nobody wants to deal with at all. It's just they don't want the people inside the game playing with you, they don't want to be ignored, and nor does the chat, so you just have a really big problem that you can't even stream it. And this doesn't only apply to streams, it applies to videos too, because personally, if I go to get gameplay or just something just for a video, if it's a side Easter egg or something like that, or even something during the Easter egg, I can't collect that gameplay myself because I have to wait till someone's online who's willing to do the Easter egg, which isn't very often, which is just a big old pain. And on top of that, I don't really want to play with somebody every single time I want to get gameplay, because I don't want to just get to the point in the Easter egg that I need the gameplay from and then just quit on them. Like, who's going to be willing to do that with me? It's just nobody is. It's just a really big problem for streaming and videos, and it just makes a really big problem for both YouTube content or just content on the game, and just for the players as yourself, because like I said, the really big problem for players is that you're not always going to have someone there to play with you. And that's why I think it's a really big problem to not have this zombies mode solo friendly. I just don't understand why they're not willing to make it more solo friendly, especially with how you've seen what's happened with the past games. And it's just a really big problem. I know it's possible to do these solo, but nobody wants to be doing an Origins level of difficulty Easter egg every single time they want to do an Easter egg. Nobody wants to do that. I most definitely do not want to do it, but I do think that that is a super big problem with World War II Zombies, that it's just not solo friendly, and that destroys a lot of people's just will to play the mode, and of course the content to be made on it, to be streamed, or making videos. But that's one of the main reasons that I think the gameplay really scares people away from this mode. But let's move on to story. I'll try to make this one a little bit shorter, but the story I think is not bad. Like, there's nothing inherently bad with the story. The story isn't doing something fundamentally wrong like I would say the gameplay is. But the thing is that the story, I guess the type of story you would call it, isn't exactly something we really want from zombies, because if you look how they're telling the story, they're telling you this story like you would do in a campaign or a movie, a TV show, a book, or just something like that. Something that you're just reading through or just going through, just observing. I guess you could call it just a story that they're telling to an observer that has no way to interact with it at all. And personally, I don't like that type of storytelling inside video games, because I mean, you're inside the video game, so why would you tell an observer type story if you have the ability to more bring people into that game? And I don't know, but that's just not the point. But the problem is that this type of story is not inherently bad, but I just don't think it has that much interaction that the community could actually have with it. There's no ciphers, there's nothing that is just totally unrelated to the main story that you can kind of explore or anything like that. They're telling one story, and that's your entire focus throughout this whole season. And that is not, again, inherently bad, but I just don't think it's a good story to tell for zombies. And if you look at this, comparing this to Black Ops 3 or just Treyarch Zombies as a whole, I would say that they are not actually just telling it to an observer. They're not telling the story to the characters inside the game. They are telling this story to us directly. The game is directly talking to the people in real life. And I really say this because of, obviously, Dr. Monty, where he has, like, it's so perfect because he has these quotes inside the game that are kind of breaking the third wall, but it's not actually. It's just like, you could tell he's directly talking to the community, but he's not exactly doing that. And this is just not inside just, I guess you would say, Dr. Monty's, but you could see this type of storytelling ever since Black Ops 3 really started. You see these events, you follow these characters just all over the place, and you could read these ciphers that obviously the characters aren't going to say anything about because they're not deciphering the ciphers themselves, but these ciphers are directly being told to the community playing this game, but not the characters inside the game. Richtofen might write a cipher and we'll never know about it, but of course we'll have to find the cipher and we're going to have to decipher it to figure out what it's saying. And this is why I say Black Ops 3's zombie story is just a story that's told directly to the community, so it has a lot more interaction than we would have in a story that is, I guess we'll just dub for now, an observer's type story that World War II Zombies is telling. And a lot of people may bring up the IW zombie story that I was really engaged in during that season, and the thing is that they weren't either telling an observer type story, they weren't telling a traditional movie like story, they were telling a story that you were supposed to take the place of the characters and experience everything as the characters do. Because the reason I'm saying this is when you hear quotes inside the games, the characters actually respond to that and say, what the heck, like for example, there's some quotes inside, I believe it's inside Shell and Shuffle, where they're talking about the characters, or I guess Willard Wyler is talking about the characters in their past, and then they're saying, whoa, how the heck do they know this about me? Like, what's going on there? And then inside Attack of the Radioactive Thing, where you're hearing some quotes about just, I guess, Willard Wyler just saying a bunch of different things, and these characters actually interact with the quotes and will just comment on these things directly. So I believe what IW Zombies were doing, they were actually telling the story through the characters, and you were supposed to take the place of that character, so it was much more engaging. It wasn't directly to you, but you were supposed to find yourself in the character's shoes and of course discover the story that way, because just everything the characters did, you were supposed to also like experience in just, I guess, in not exactly real life, but you guys know what I'm saying. But I think that that type of story works much more inside Zombies because you can actually interact with the story. Well, not technically, something like Black Ops 3 Zombies is not a cipher that you have to discover outside of the game entirely, but you guys know what I'm saying here, because you're just supposed to take the place of the characters, which is something you don't see in World War II Zombies. But hopefully that all makes sense, because I just don't see that type of story, just I guess an observer type story, working that well for Zombies. It's not inherently bad, but it's just based off of preference and just what has been working inside Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. But anyways, that's all I gotta say about this. Tell me what you guys think of it. Do you guys agree with me with anything? Do you guys agree with the gameplay side, the storyline side? inside, or just anything at all. Just tell me what you agree, disagree with, or even some more reasons that I have missed inside this video. But anyways, if you guys did enjoy the video, go ahead and do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and especially bell. But I'm gonna go, and I will catch you guys on my next video.